out by thanking everybody for the work that you've done in this auction integration schedule as we started actually in the last year, and now we're about halfway, just over halfway through. And my comment is that we could not have done what we've been able to achieve already without you. And I'm specifically referring to the interaction and registration and training of carriers that you've facilitated. Members of our team, Anastasia, Sean, Otis, within our Carrier Relations Department have specifically stated they've had a great experience working with the auctions and have received a great amount of help. And just wanted to thank everybody for that help as we've been able to achieve a lot over the last 5 months. So with that said, you should be able to see up on the screen, hopefully. If you don't, please let us know. But the title of this screen is, What is Carrier Relations? And so we're going to start there. We'll open it up to questions here in a little bit, in the middle of the presentation and at the end. So Carrier Relations is new to Ready Auto Transport. It started literally at the beginning of this year, and I was tasked with creating this department, so to speak, which is not a large department, but tasked with creating this department. Going back in the history of Ready, I would say that from the very beginning of our company, we considered the customer, I'm using quotes with my hands, we considered the customer the shipper, which is the dealer or the commercial account, the person who owns the car and needs to move it. So that was always our customer. And we always kind of looked at the carrier as more of the vendor. And that's one thing we've been really wanting to and trying to change. The carrier is just as much a customer to us, and as you know, as the dealer or the commercial account or whoever it is that owns that car. They need to be a customer. So as you can see on the slide, we don't view anymore today, and what we're trying to envision or instill in our employees is don't look at the carrier as a vendor. They're not a vendor. They are a partner of ours, and an extremely important partner, so much so that without them, none of this is achievable, none of it. We don't own trucks. None of us in the auctions and at Ready Auto Transport are planning to own trucks. So we need the carriers, and we need good, reliable partnerships. And that, if anything from this presentation that I hope we can all take away, it's that let's evaluate where we're at with these partnerships with our carriers. Are they strong? And if not, why? And how can we grow those partnerships if they aren't? A couple comments. So our department consists of carrier compliance, which we'll discuss in later slides, which really is the registration of carriers, the insurance, safety ratings, making sure that they are within good standing, and also with updating insurance. So we have a team of 6 individuals doing that all day long, and we'll go into more details with that. We have the auction integration individuals who on our side are facilitating with carriers each and every day to get them registered and trained and understand how they'll receive their orders in the way that you're sending them today. So that's the auction integration team. And then we also have a group of individuals, a small group of individuals who are designed around increasing not only the relationship we have with our current carrier network, but growing that network. As we all know, the industry is growing significantly. We all call it the saddle. So in 2008, with the market crashing, we all know that in 2010, 11, 12, we had some rough years with volumes of cars. And since 2013 and 14 and even 15 now, the increase of volumes is coming at in drastic measures. And with that, means that we need more carriers out in the marketplace, because when the market crashed, we lost some of those carriers and we need them back. And so they are coming back, but we need them back in a large amount. So that is, carrier expansion is really designed to grow more carriers. Next slide. Sorry, so we're going to go to the next slide. So our carrier nation, the dots that you see on this map aren't necessarily all the locations where our carriers are going, but rather this is where their corporate offices are located. So you can kind of get a feel for, with these dots on this map, where our carriers reside. And it really fits into the location of where vehicles are located. So we like to use the term carriers go where the cars are. So you can kind of sense where cars are moving throughout the country and where those carriers are being placed. We have 6,500 carriers in our network, 3,500 trucks, and just this year, we've registered over 1,400 carriers into our network. Now, that doesn't mean that at the beginning of the year that we had about 5,000 carriers. We actually see a volume of carriers as they're coming in, carriers are also going out, whether they go out because they are not compliant with FMCSA, or they they had to shut their doors because they couldn't seem to be successful with it, or for whatever reason. But we do have a number of carriers that are coming out of the business, in some cases as much as they're coming in. So 1,400 carriers is a lot this year, but that doesn't mean we grew our complete network by 1,400 carriers just this year. Okay, next slide. The value to carriers. So everything in relations is how can we get value to our partners? What can we do to make sure that they're receiving value in the business that they're doing with us and with the auction? Obviously, the most important value to the carrier is the relationship that they have with you. And when we talk to carriers, we hear that. The carriers tell us that the relationship they have with the auction is important. In fact, that's one of the most important questions and concerns they have as we go out to these locations is, will I continue to get to work with the transportation team at the auction? And so that's probably the biggest value. It's just the personal relationships that we are having, these one-on-one relationships that we have with these carriers. Outside of that, what can Ready Auto Transport add to them? So obviously the mobile app is one that we believe is a huge value add to the carrier network. It not only allows them to protect them with inspections, but also provide updates where they don't have to be making phone calls or where you don't have to be calling them, but rather the app will provide them a way to be more transparent and be more efficient. We've been told from carriers that it is the most simple app to use. I hope you're receiving that feedback. If you're not, that's something we want to hear. And you'll see in one of the last slides how you can provide feedback to us. So if you're hearing feedback on the mobile app from carriers, we want to hear it. We want to know what's going on, good or bad, so that we can make sure and enhance it as needed. Another value add, the fact that we pay next business day. That's something Ready Auto Transport has done since day one, since doors opened, and something we've continued to do all the way through. And even with the integration of auctions, we've been doing the same. So if a carrier delivers a car today, they don't have to invoice anymore. If they deliver it to the auction today, they will receive payment within 24 hours, or we will initiate that payment to them within 1 business day. And that is something we've heard is a huge value to carriers. They like that. Access to more dealer loads. This is probably the #1 most important thing we hear from the carriers that they're looking forward to and want to see. And that is, look, I do business with a Manheim facility, a Manheim auction today, but I only bring cars in and I'm going out empty. What can you do to help us out? And that is a big initiative with Ready. I will tell the participants on the call today that it is a #1 focus to get the inbound to auction moves done first. So as you know, our team has been going out. We've been working with you to get all carriers registered so that cars that are being brought into the auction inbound are being facilitated through the system. That is a first priority. Once that whole project is done, which is later this year, our next and most important priority will be how can we help the carriers get cars going outbound? And we have initiatives that we're working on today. And when we talk about this with carriers, they get very excited for the opportunity to move more inventory out of the auction because in many cases, as you know, you're assigning inventory to them that is only going into the auction and they're deadheading back out. That is a relationship disaster. If they're deadheading, we're not strengthening a relationship. If we're keeping their trucks full, that's the best relationship we can have with every carrier in the country. So our hope as we continue to grow volumes is keep their trucks full, help them be more efficient. Now, last, and something, the technology piece, when it comes to value, when you're talking to carriers, when you're building relationships with carriers, our hope is that you would consider that what they have today, in most situations, carriers do not have technology. They've got a truck or they've got multiple trucks and they have drivers. They may have 1 or 2 people in the office. This is typical. May have 1 or 2 people in the office, but outside of that, they're not a technology-driven organization. They move vehicles. They're expert at it. They know how to do it. They've been doing it for many years, but they don't have technology, and they're not considering how technology can help them add value. We hope that if and when you're talking to carriers, that you can express the value that we can be the technology on their behalf. We want to partner with carriers to be the technology. Oh, okay, they don't have the ability or the funds to be able to create a mobile app. We do. They don't have the ability to create something more efficient like connect to their QuickBooks. We can. There are many things that we can do and build for them that can add value to our organization, the auctions, you out in the field, as well as the carrier. And we hope that carriers can see us as a partner where we can help and invest in technology on their behalf. So that's another big point that I hope that we can get out of this conversation. When carriers say, why is Ready getting involved? Why is this involvement occurring? Our hope is that they can see that technology is not something they've had in the past, but something we hope they'll have in the future. And we would like to be that technology partner. Next slide. Requirements for compliance. So before we go there, I want to open it up real quick because we're going to talk a little bit about compliance. Are there any questions about just relationships with carriers in general? And open it up to the phone. If you're muted, you'll need to unmute to ask the question. Or if we have any questions that people have asked through the WebEx. Any questions on the phone that people would like to ask to this point? Okay. All right, so we'll move on then. We're going to go now to this requirements for compliance. So this is a big area, I think, for auctions. There have been some concerns I've heard from auctions of how does the carrier get compliant? How do they get registered? How long does it take? And I'm going to give you just a little bit of the dirty side of things, some of the dirt under the rug. We haven't been the best. I'll be honest. We have not been the best with carrier compliance. What I mean by that is we've had a lot of carriers registering with us, and the process can seem a bit monotonous and manual for them. And because of the amount of carriers that have been coming in, we haven't had as many resources to be able to field those registrations. Now, I say that it has at times taken upwards of a week and even up to a week and a half for carriers to get registered with us. I'm not okay with that. We're not okay with that. That is not a good metric. We have improved that. We're now about 48 hours from the time that a carrier requests a registration. We're about 48 hours for the process to get going. But it does require that the carrier assist us. So what I want to explain a few things that can be problematic. You can see on the slide. One is that there are two different agreements. There's a Ready agreement and there's a Manheim agreement. We are planning to, it's not done today, but we are planning to have those agreements merged into one agreement, where Manheim and Ready is one agreement. The carrier doesn't have to sign two different agreements, but it's just one. That would seem to be a logical thing to do, and we're working on that, but it's not solved yet today. So today, a carrier does have to sign a Ready agreement and a Manheim agreement. Insurance requirements. We do have to have all of their insurance information, and on the next slide, you'll see here that insurance information goes in detail into what they need. And last but not least, they do have to be in good standing with FMCSA. If a carrier is not, it is very important that we do not do business with that carrier because of the liability to Cox Automotive. So in all the locations that we've gone to, I hope that you've felt at the auctions that we're not trying to change the relationships with the carriers that you're doing business with. Our hope is that you continue to, and hope that if there's more carriers that can help facilitate moves on your behalf, that we can add more carriers where needed. But if there's a situation where a carrier is not compliant, they don't have the appropriate insurance, it's not updated, or their safety ratings are not within appropriate standing, then we hope that you'll understand or work with us to say that we cannot, to Cox Automotive and the risk that it puts on them, we cannot be dispatching vehicles to those carriers. Now, you might ask the question, well, how do I know that? We'll make sure that you're informed of that. So our team, our dispatch team becomes aware anytime that a carrier is not in good standing, we make sure to communicate out to those individuals that need to know that information. If you go to the next slide, we're not going to go into this slide. So please don't think this is a very involved slide. I put this slide in here only so that when this presentation gets sent out, that you have exactly what the carrier needs to do to be compliant and to get registered with Ready Auto Transport. You can see there's three sections. There's an insurance section, there's a broker, a carrier, and a drive-away. For each of those type of businesses, a broker, a carrier, drive-away, they have to have the appropriate insurance requirements that we display up there on the screen. They have to have some documentation they have to provide, and they have to be compliant. Now, this may seem very involved, but I hope that when you receive this presentation that you'll keep this slide, if there's any slide, keep this slide on your desk or somewhere close by, so that when you do get a call, if you do get a call from a carrier, you can go through and explain, this is the information you need to get done in order to be registered with Ready Auto Transport and Manheim. Next slide. Objections. So we all know that in partnerships, things don't always go perfectly. We all know that partnerships, the way that partnerships work best is when we can communicate together. So we have received objections. We will get objections from carriers. The main 3 objections that we do get from carriers are, 1, will I continue to get to work with the auction personnel that I've worked with in the past? And the answer is always yes. And hopefully you have felt that and that you've experienced that on your side, that you've been able to continue the same relationship that you've had with that carrier and hopefully enhance it. If not, I would like to hear about that. I want to understand how that relationship, if Ready Auto Transport's involvement has actually prevented that relationship between you and that carrier. 2, another question the carrier asks is, will I continue to get the same inventory? And the answer is yes, assuming they can continue to deliver those cars in the same time frame. And 3, what's it going to cost? And we all know that this is probably the biggest objection. The biggest objection that we've heard from carriers that we have fielded day in and day out since December, every single day, multiple times a day, is why are you taking 10%? And I hope on this call that we can all agree as to why. The most important piece to why that 10% is being initiated, and that I hope everybody agrees and understands with, is that 10% is not something that Ready puts in their pocket. That 10% is the carrier's investment into technology. So if we went back to that slide about value, we hope that every carrier will understand and agree that they need technology in their business if they want to grow and succeed. That 10% is a big part, an important part to their investment into the technology that will add value to each of them, such as the mobile app. Those are the 3 main objections that we get from carriers. Any other objections that the carriers are receiving, we hope that you'll engage our team, that you'll talk to us if you don't have answers to them. If we don't have answers, we'll work to get those answers. We want to make sure that as I mentioned, in partnerships, they don't always go perfect, but the hope in a good partnership is that the communication is open-ended, that they can express their concerns and we can do the same. Next slide. Carrier resources. So when a carrier is looking for more information, obviously to get access to their inventory, they go to onedispatch.com. But we also have a web page called 1dcarriers.com. So you can see up there, it's 1dcarriers.com, where they can get tutorials, where they can download the app, or information regarding downloading the app, and where they can get a demo of the app, a video of the app. There's other information that they can access there, questions that are answered there. We hope that you'll position carriers to go there. It is a location where they can get more information about Ready Auto Transport, their involvement with us, how they can grow their business, how they can use the mobile app, and it will continue to be enhanced. So our hope is that you would direct them there outside of contacting you and us directly. Next slide. Contact information. So obviously from a carrier relations standpoint, if you have things that are from an auction personnel, so you on the call as auction personnel, transportation employees, if you have questions related to carriers, maybe it's objections that you're having, maybe it's the experience that you're seeing that the carriers are having with getting registered or being compliant, whatever that might be, we hope that the auction personnel will address carrier relations at that address at the top, carrierrelations@readyaut.com. For carriers that are having questions about being compliant, getting registered, making sure their insurance is updated, if they've seen an information they needed to contact somebody, that would be the carriercompliance@readyaut.com email address or the phone number you see listed. Outside of that, if you have questions related to Ready Auto Transport with the Manheim Auction integration activities, you can download and share the link that you see up on the page, which is available at readyatmanheim.com. Okay, so we're going to open it up to questions now, everybody. Are there any questions that we've received through chat or on the phone that we can answer today?
None recorded on chat so far, so over the phone.
Anybody over the phone? Okay, so then I want to end with just a few experiences that I've seen in my experience this last 5 months. And I'm going to give you a few carriers that we've heard from. So in our first location we went to, we actually had a carrier that came up to us after the meeting, and he said, Blake, I haven't slept in 3 days. He said, I was so concerned because I was involved in the UPS days, when UPS was involved in transportation. And he said, it was so bad for my business, and I was so concerned that I haven't slept for 3 days. I thought my business was going to go under. I thought this is it. I'm going to have to figure out something else to do. And after the meeting, he came up and he said, I got to tell you, I'm excited. I'm a little bit hesitant because change is obviously something that can be concerning, right? It can be a risk because you don't know what to expect. But I'm excited because this doesn't seem like a UPS model. And he actually reached out to one of our field personnel about a month or two ago. And he said that he's moving more cars and having more success in his business today than he ever has. And his response was, a large part of it related to the fact that the tie between Manheim and Ready Transport has been a huge blessing for his business. That is the goal. That is the hope. The hope is not that we come into the auctions and we're taking over transportation. That is not what you've seen, we hope. That's not what we've intended. It's that between the Cox Automotive companies, Manheim and Ready Auto Transport, we can collaborate the experience that we both have on both ends and create a better experience for carriers, for dealers, for those that need to move cars. Another experience that we had, we had a carrier that just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. we had a carrier that I think Bryce mentioned these in our presentations when we go out to the auction. So some of you have heard this. When we got to the meeting, the carrier threw his wallet at Bryce, who was presenting, when we were talking about the investment from the carrier, and he was really upset about it. And that was a year ago. And we came back to that location, and that carrier came up to us and actually expressed his interest in wanting to do more business, and felt that there was at least a partnership that we could agree to work back and forth together. So what I want to see on the call here and to finish up is that we are hearing from carriers good experiences. We have heard some of the concerns and the complaints, the objections. They're going to be there. Ready Auto Transport doesn't claim to be perfect. I don't think any auction claims to be perfect. And as we're growing, as fast as things are growing, there are going to be growing pains. But our hope is that, and the communication is that, the carriers understand or feel that we are here to assist them and build value and hear them out. If they have objections or concerns, we want to hear about it and see what we can do to fix them, or to grow with them, or to find the solutions to those problems. I want to thank you guys for joining the call today. And I want to open up one more time if there are any questions about carrier relations that we can address for the call today. All right. Well, happy selling. Thanks, everybody, for joining the call today. Darren, anything on your side?
Thanks. No, yeah, no updates. Again, we will send this out to everyone, the video and the PDF. It'll be posted to ready@mainstreet.com. So please feel free to download it there and utilize it and share among your teams. If you have any questions, you can email us at marketing@readyat.com. Thanks, everyone.